Disney cruises are becoming a more popular trip choice among vacationers year after year, but is there a way you can actually screw these trips up? 1000%, which is why it's a good thing you are here to correct these cruise line mistakes before you even make them. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. We are heading back out to sea for today's Disney Cruise Loaded video. While Disney cruises tend to be relatively easier to plan around versus a Disney theme park, that doesn't mean you can just hop on board and know everything there is to know about DCL without any extra planning. So we're going to show you the most crucial things you need to know about before you step on board any of these Disney boats. That way, you never have to feel like you've completely wasted all your vacation time and money on a cruise that could have been so much better if only you'd avoided the following. Disney's got several cruise ships you can choose from, and while some of the basic offerings and amenities might be the same across the board, like all-inclusive dining, those Broadway-style stage shows, premium lounges, and more, each ship definitely has its own personality beyond where it goes to port and how many days you're going to be sailing. For example, some Disney cruises tend to stick with Bahamian vacation destinations, and others will take you to more rare Disney cruise destinations like Alaska or Europe or Australia. The older Disney cruise ships tend to be smaller and more intimate or easier to get around, while the newer ships are bigger but tend to have more offerings and room to spread out. Speaking of older versus newer ships, you'll get classic DCL offerings on the older ship models, but the shiny new stuff, like the Disney attraction-themed lounges, for instance, are going to be on the newest ships of the fleet. And some cruise ships are only going to take you on shorter cruises, while others will have you doing full-blown 7+ day excursions with multiple stops across multiple ports and extra activities too. But if you really want to dive deeper into all of these ships, as well as start planning your cruise itinerary with the help of some nifty planning worksheets, go ahead and scan the QR code you see on the screen right now, or click on the link in the description for disneyfoodblog.com/cruise planning after this, so we can send you our free Disney Cruise Line guide with cruise ship details, island activities, planning timelines, packing lists, and more. Talk about a big trip gamble. Here's the thing. Your Disney Cruises boarding process can start as early as 11 a.m. on embarkation day. So even if you're taking a really early flight into your cruise ship's home port that morning, flight delays and cancellations are still very much a thing that you'd need to worry about. Unfortunately, if something happens to your flight, your ship's not going to wait for you. So having no safety net to work with, just in case your flight has to be pushed back for whatever reason, is way too high of a risk to gamble with, at least for me. My advice, drive in or fly into your home port city the night before. Yep, you'll have to pay for a hotel to crash that night, but paying maybe $100 for the local Holiday Inn is going to be way better than missing out on your multi-$1,000 cruise altogether. Okay, now this is a weird one that I still have serious trouble with sometimes, because when you're on vacation, you're not really thinking about all of a sudden going forward or backward in time. The time zone you might start sailing in might not be the time zone you stay in, depending on where your Disney cruise is planning on taking you. Now, according to the Disney website, your ship will usually go by the time in the local time zone that you're crossing into. But if that time switch is going to be brief, then they may not change it over at all. At either rate, you're going to want to keep an eye on your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app, since it's going to tell you whether or not you'll be switching time zones on board the ship. This is crucial information, since your smartphone might automatically switch over for you, and if the ship itself doesn't switch over along with it, which, yes, sometimes happens, then you might accidentally end up running late to a reservation or dinner or an activity, or, I don't know, miss meeting Goofy. You don't want to do that. So definitely check and make sure if there's any time zone changes, you are aware of them. Sure, Disney Cruise Line doesn't have nearly as many discounts as you're going to find on, say, your Disney World vacation, but that doesn't mean they have none. Disney Visa has promotions where you can get certain percentages off your stateroom for booking with your Disney Visa card, plus some extra spending money you can use on the ship. You can get 50% off your third and fourth stateroom guests, 30% off or more for cruises that sail to certain locations. Anyway, you can find out what sort of deals are going on right now for your specific cruise timeline when you head to the special savings page of the Disney Cruise Line website. And if you want serious savings without having to crunch the numbers yourself, the agents at Small World Vacations are experts in this subject. They know how to monitor your reservation for possible future savings and compare discounts and figure out which ones work best for your travel party and your dates and your hotel and your touring plans. Plus, they're going to share expert tips and first-hand advice with you along the way. Best of all, they are completely free for you to use. So if you want to use this travel agency, which is the one that we use and the one that we've used for years and years and years, I literally have met every single agent on their team and they're all wonderful. We will go ahead and put their info down in the description for you so you can reach out for a free quote whenever you're ready. One of the coolest things about cruising is you get to go overseas without having to worry about finding a hotel room somewhere. But unless you're spending the day at Disney's Castaway Key or Disney's Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point, you're going to be at a port that's not owned or operated by Disney at all, and that means anything extra you want to do at these ports is going to have to come out of pocket instead of being charged to your stateroom, like you can do for all other added expenses during your cruise. And that means you'll need the correct currency to spend at whatever place your ship docks. If you're traveling toward a port of call that doesn't accept US dollars and you still want to pay in cash instead of a credit card, guest services can make those exchanges for you pretty easily. Now, while DCL won't charge you anything extra for this service, keep in mind that exchange rates do fluctuate regularly, so you want to keep an eye on those rates before you board. Personally, I always get a little bit of the local currency from my bank. Before I go, I always like to have that ready to go as a just in case. So this is not just the time zone changes and the currency exchanges that you'll have to anticipate when you start crossing into overseas location, it's your phone service too. The free Wi-Fi on board the Disney cruise ships is not your average Wi-Fi. The only thing it'll allow you to do is access your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app. Now, for some of y'all, that's going to be plenty of Wi-Fi, and cutting away from the outside world for a few days is going to be a much needed reset for you. But if you still want to post on social media or keep in contact with your family back home while you're on vacation, then you'll need to determine if you'd like to get an international plan or a cruise plan on your cell phone. I personally use the AT&T International plan because it automatically notices if I go out of the country, and it costs me just $10 per day to keep my same data plan. $10 per day is much better than paying for those overseas roaming charges and suddenly having a $100 plus bill when you get home, which I have indeed experienced. So yeah, you can run into that if you don't plan for this stuff ahead of time. Not a fun surprise. But Disney does offer paid Wi-Fi on their ships, which you can also access on your phone. So it's called Connect at Sea, and it offers internet packages where you can pay by the data you use. So for instance, streaming movies will consume a lot more data than reading a quick email will, so you may have to buy kind of the more expensive package if you want to stream movies on your phone or on your device. And since we're on the phone subject, you know what's really frustrating? When you're trying to download the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app while killing time in the cruise terminal before boarding. This is basically the Disney Cruise Line equivalent of cramming for a final exam only a couple of hours before the test begins, minus the copious amounts of coffee, and you and I both know how that goes. Now, initially, the Navigator app is going to show you a trip countdown along with your payment summary, online check-in, and trip modification options. But once you're actually on board the ship, the Navigator app will be your go-to guide to make sure you know what's happening on the ship at all times. So when you're in the ship's terminal, it's a great idea to sign into the Navigator app to see all the different scheduled activities before you board, because this is going to be the earliest you can see your ship's specific itinerary. You'll also be able to see your scheduled rotational dining times and your stateroom number too. However, if you don't already have the Navigator app downloaded, not only are you going to be fighting against the spotty terminal Wi-Fi the entire time to get that thing downloaded, but once you finally do get it on your phone, you might feel fairly overwhelmed by it all when you first open it up. So don't start off your cruise stressed out. Stay proactive, get the Navigator app downloaded right now before you even get down to Port Canaveral or wherever you're leaving from, and start looking through it so that you know what to expect. Having a Magic Band Plus in the Disney parks is kind of fun, but having a Magic Band Plus on your Disney cruise ship is even funner and sometimes a requirement, at least for me. Disney Cruise Line has started introducing Magic Band Plus, or they call it DisneyBand Plus, to select cruises. Now you can see if your upcoming cruise is a DisneyBand Plus compatible one on the Disney Cruise Line website via the DisneyBand Plus and More page. So what's the purpose of having a DisneyBand Plus on board with you? By the way, it's the same thing as your Magic Band Plus. You can literally use the same one. Don't stress, don't buy a new one. So anyway, these bands can link up to your DCL account so that you can unlock your stateroom and pay for purchases. You can download PhotoPass pictures and trigger some fun little interactive moments on board the ship as well. Just recently, the Disney Treasure has added a special DisneyBand Plus experience at their Haunted Mansion parlor. So with your band, you can go on a scavenger hunt to find hidden ghosts throughout the ship. Once you're done, you'll return them to Madame Leota for a swinging wake, which will unlock something very special in the lounge itself. Kids can also use Disney bands to access the Oceaneer Club and scan into Scuttle's Cove water play area on Castaway Key. And recently, Disney Cruise Line has also started approving Disney Band Plus as a means for getting on and off the ships when you're at a new port, though you'll still need your ID card handy too. I also really like having the Disney Band to just unlock my door of my room, especially when I have a giant tray of barbecue from Mickey's Festival Fair down on deck 11 and I don't have enough hands to get my key card out of my lanyard. So I just use the Disney Band to unlock the door. Very handy. You can order a Disney Band Plus for your cruise by visiting My Reservations on the DCL website between 11 and 45 days before your sail date, just as long as your reservation is paid in full. You can also use your Magic Band Plus from past Disney World and Disneyland park trips, like I said, on select sailings across the fleet too. Just keep in mind that the brand new Disney Adventure, launching on March 10th, 2026, will not use Disney Band or Magic Band whatsoever. Now, with all that Disney Band talk, I'd still keep your Key to the World card close by you, even with a Disney Band strapped around your wrist. Key to the World cards are distributed outside your stateroom, usually above each stateroom's number on embarkation day, and they do essentially everything your Disney Band can do, minus the fun extras like a ghostly scavenger hunt. But if something happens with your Disney Band before you disembark anywhere, like there's some sort of tech glitch going on or something, you'll want your Key to the World card nearby as a backup instead of having to backtrack all the way back to your stateroom to fetch it as your plan B. Now, I don't want to just glaze over that last point because some of y'all might be going, wait a minute, what do I have to have something in my hand before I'm allowed to get off at an overseas port? Well, for the most part, just your Key to the World card is needed, or your Disney Band Plus should suffice, as well as any overseas currency you plan on spending while you're out and about, though that's not required for you to get off the ship. That being said, at different ports of call, the regulations might be way different and still require you to have your passport out and ready to be checked before you get on and off at your overseas destination. So always double check your specific cruise's guidelines on the Disney Cruise Line website to see what you're going to need to have with you in each port. And also your Navigator app and your stateroom host, they should tell you, hey, tomorrow we're going to be, getting off the ship in whatever, Cork, Ireland, and you're going to need to have X, Y, and Z to get off. But always good to sort of preview and make sure you know what you're going to need and you're all set to go. Personally, I just kind of bring my passport with me all the time just so that it's near me. I actually wear it in one of those super not flattering lanyards around my neck and I put it under my shirt. I just always have it with me because I guess I have a major fear of, for some reason, not being able to get back to the ship and being stuck in whatever country I'm in and having to figure out how to fly home. Anyway, it's never happened. Don't stress, but I just like to be prepared, I guess. Now, this next one's a very big deal, especially if it's going to be your first ever Disney cruise coming up, or if you don't plan on cruising with Disney very often in the future. You'll have ample opportunities to do lots of things on your Disney cruise ship, like ride the water slides, or hang out in the pool, or watch a movie in one of the theaters, or fill up on endless ice cream. But there are also select Disney cruise activities that'll only happen once during your vacation. So if you miss out on them the first go-around, you'll miss out on them, period. No take-backs. For example, the sail sail-away celebration party that happens on the pool deck when you are sailing away. It's filled with dancing and music and your favorite Disney friends, and it isn't going to be a repeat offender. You got to experience that one right when it happens, or you're not going to see it at all. Depending on the duration of your cruise, you might be able to visit one or multiple themed rotational dinners during your voyage. But on shorter cruises, if you just got a 3-night, you've really got to decide if skipping one of those all-inclusive meals is going to be worth it to eat at one of the adults-only premium dining experiences, or stick with the food court-style options around the pool, which is sometimes what my family likes to do since they're all about the poolside chicken tenders and barbecue, as I mentioned before. Now, there will be 2 opportunities each evening to see the Broadway-style entertainment to accommodate both rotational dining meal times, but after that, they'll move on to the next show, and you won't get the chance to see them again. That being said, if there's ever a reason you're going to have to miss one of those Broadway-style stage shows, there is a channel on your stateroom TV that'll play the shows in the evening for ya. This is especially helpful if you're feeling kind of sick or you literally are sick, you have a cold or something like that. You don't want to go and hang out with a bunch of people in a crowd. Well, Disney will make sure everyone gets the chance to see the nighttime display on the night it does happen, since it will not happen again. By the way, if you're planning on attending the Pirate Night show and the Sail Away party or any other specialty shows that might happen around the pool deck during your trip, don't just head to the pool deck and call it good. What? All right, you can if you want to be in the middle of all the action, but hanging out on the pool deck means you're going to be in a sea of other people. You're going to have to get there real early to get a front row spot, and that could mean it's going to be harder for you to get a clear window of what's happening on stage, especially for your little ones. So take this little jingle to heart. The higher up on the ship you go, the better your angle of what's down below. You guys can thank Bria for that. If you can get to the deck that's right above the pool deck, you should have a better vantage point overall. Also, I'd recommend staking out a spot just a little earlier in these higher ground locations too, so that you can belly up to the railings to make sure no heads get in front of your view. Another good spot is the steps that kind of lead up to the aqueduct or the AquaMouse or whatever happens to be on your ship, because those steps, you can also kind of stand on those to watch the show, and that automatically gives you kind of stadium viewing, right? Okay, so there you go. What even is a placeholder option, you might be asking? Well, if you've ever stayed at a Disney World hotel before, the cruise line's placeholder option is a lot like Disney World's bounce back offer, where you're going to save a bunch of money toward your next vacation if you decide to book your future trip during your current vacation. I know, it's brilliant marketing, right? The difference with Disney Cruise Line's placeholder option, however, is that they give you more time to cash in on the deal. According to the Disney Cruise Line website, you can book an open-ended placeholder reservation for a future cruise sailing within the next 24 months from your last cruise taken to unlock special savings. And for sailings lasting 7 nights or longer, you're going to get a reduced deposit as well. To apply your placeholder reservation, go to My Reservations on the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app or on the Disney Cruise Line website. You can also call the Disney Cruise Line Contact Center or Small World Vacations, our favorite travel agents, to get that future placeholder reservation and discount applied for you as well. I mean, yeah, many or most things on your Disney cruise are going to be covered by the price of your stateroom, but not every activity offered on Disney Cruise Line automatically comes with the price of your stateroom. Some activities may cost extra and may have to be booked before your trip. This includes stuff like the spas, drink seminars, Castaway Key excursions, and of course those cabanas. There are even some character meet and greets that you're going to have to book ahead of time. And of course the premium dining experiences too. So for first-time cruisers, you're going to be able to start booking those extra activities 75 days before you sail, starting at midnight. However, the more you cruise, the sooner you're going to be able to start making reservations. So more seasoned cruisers will have the best chances at getting those highly coveted reservations for stuff like Castaway Key cabanas and premium brunches for the specialty restaurants. All right, fellow parents, you'll also need to pre-book and pay for the It's a Small World Nursery if you have a kiddo between the ages of 6 months and 3 years that you may want to drop off with those experienced nursery counselors while you and the rest of your group are enjoying a nice night out at one of the adults-only locations. While you don't have to book any of these premium activities to still have a good time on board the ship, you can start booking any activities that are going to become your must-do experiences weeks before you set sail. But one little thing I will note, I put my kid in the nursery when he was like 2 weeks away from turning 3, and he was super annoyed with me because he was like, this is for babies. And he was not happy about being left there because it is more of a babyish place, and I totally get it. So you might want to think about sort of the maturity level of your kid before you drop them in there when they're real close to age 3, because that's another thing. Disney Cruise Line does not waver on those age limits. They will not let your 2-year-old go into the Oceaneers Club, even if they're a week away from turning 3. So I literally didn't know this was a thing until just recently, and it's kind of stressing me out. You know how I said before that the more you cruise, the sooner you're going to be able to start making reservations for things? That's all thanks to your Castaway Club status. Much like how other cruise line loyalty programs work, Disney likes to reward their guests with more benefits the more they sail. So just as soon as you take your first cruise, congratulations! You automatically become part of the Castaway Club membership. Now don't you feel special? That being said, this isn't a club that you join and are just grandfathered into forever. Apparently. According to the Disney website, your club membership can actually be terminated if you don't book a cruise with Disney within 5 years after you leave your last cruise. Now, Disney could choose to extend your club membership for you if you're past that 5-year window, but it's all up to Disney's discretion, and they're by no means required to do so. So if you've really climbed the ladder of Disney's cruise line ranks and you don't want to get knocked all the way back down to the bottom again, just be sure to keep that 5-year time span in mind. Geez, I feel like I gotta go book another cruise. No one wants to start a vacation feeling behind, so let's try not to put ourselves in that position if we can avoid it, right? That's why you're here with DFB Guide. We make sure you're ahead of the game, right? Now, the earlier you can book your stateroom, the more likely you're going to be able to select the specific stateroom you want without having to choose from whatever's left over. Not to mention, prices for cruises can surge higher as the cruise gets closer to its sail-away date, similar to booking a flight at the last minute, right? And then, of course, there's the activity booking matter at hand. If you book too late in the game, those more popular add-on experiences, like premium dining, certain popular Disney excursions, the Nursery, might already be all filled up. That's why that Castaway Club status is so important for passengers. The farther the head start, the more likely you're going to be able to secure those priority activities of yours. So book a cruise earlier in the game than later in the game if you can, or else you're just going to have to take the dregs of everything no matter what your Castaway status. Spas and cabanas and fancy pants dining might be a little more obvious in the extra expenses department, but the next few points are going to hone in on some other cruise add-ons that you might stumble upon during your sailing that could catch you off guard in terms of budget. Starting with the fountain drinks. So soda fountain drinks, black coffee, and hot teas are included with your stateroom price. These are not included on a lot of cruise lines, but they are included on Disney, and you can fill up on those drinks all cruise long, like 24/7. And yet, if you instead choose to purchase a canned soda at one of the ship's bars or lounges or concession stands or from room service, you're gonna have to pay for it. You guys, fountain soda is superior anyways, so why would you get a canned soda if you don't need to? Anyway, I guess for all you canned soda drinkers out there, at least now you know this stuff is indeed available, but you're gonna have to pay for it, and it's expensive. What desserts are included with the price of your cruise? The desserts featured on the rotational dining menus, and of course the all-you-can-eat soft serve that you'll find near the pool. Love the ice cream spots, especially since flavors rotate out regularly too. But if you're browsing the display cases at one of the specialty dessert stops on board, everything available at these locations are gonna cost you extra. Even though you'll have to pay for these premium sweets, it doesn't mean you need to skip out on them and stick solely with the free stuff. There's a reason Disney charges for these. People would probably overly take advantage of them otherwise. They're actually not that expensive. They're much less expensive than you would find in a candy store in one of the parks, but yeah, I think they do have to attach a nominal fee just so that people aren't walking around just grabbing them and throwing them out, because it takes some time and effort to make those. Now, one of my favorite things about these candy stores and sweets shops on some of the cruise ships, they're not on all of them, they're just on right now, the Dream, the Wish, the Treasure, and the Fantasy. But something that a lot of people don't realize about these spots is that you can order one of the over-the-top sundaes and you can have it delivered to you during your dinner that night, which is super, super fun. You guys know who have been watching this channel for a long time that I did that with my mom. I actually pre-ordered a huge sundae and had it delivered to our table for dinner so that she could be surprised by that. So strange enough, the popcorn that you're going to find right outside the Walt Disney Theater before you head in to see one of those Broadway-style shows is not free, unless, that is, you book a concierge-level stateroom. Then you're free to consume popcorn to your heart's content. But for the rest of us, a box of popcorn usually costs $4, so don't ask for a box if you don't want to shell out $4 for it. Now, you can purchase a refillable popcorn bucket on board with prices that range from $10 to $25 depending on the bucket design. And if you get one of those, then all your popcorn refills for the remainder of your cruise will cost you about $1.50 each. Now, something to say about those popcorn buckets. These are the same popcorn buckets usually that you're going to find in the parks. So sometimes you'll even see them on the cruise ships before you see them in the parks. So if you're a big popcorn bucket collector, cruise ships can sometimes be the way to go. While several of the daily scheduled activities you're going to find on board the ships are totally free, if you want to participate in a few rousing rounds of bingo, you are going to have to pay for that, and it doesn't come cheap. The amount you pay per game all depends on how invested you want to get. You can pay as little as one session's worth, 3 paper cards total, which will put you back around $15 to $20. Or you can really go all out and get a family bingo pack, which will give you a mix of electronic bingo cards plus paper cards for around $60 plus. Or you can settle somewhere in between, 15 to 60 range. You've definitely got options, but want to play bingo? It's going to cost you. You know how we talk about Disney World's theme park price increases a lot? Yeah, that's not the only Disney vacation where you got to worry about that. So you're going to want to make sure that your budget includes room for some of these price hikes. Once you lock in the price of your stateroom and make that initial deposit, you're not going to have to worry about that particular price changing on you. You'll pay the amount that you and Disney originally agreed on, no more, no less. But when it comes to those other add-ons that I've been talking about today, it's not unlikely that the price ranges I'm giving you right now could be higher with future cruises. So create a budget for the add-ons you want to pay for with the potential of a price hike in mind, just in case you need the extra buffer. A few examples that we've seen recently is the adults-only Palo and Palo Steakhouse brunch increased by $5 across each ship in the fleet, bringing the prefix cost up to $55 per person. On the Dream and Fantasy, Remy increased its prefix prices too, so now brunch here costs $85 instead of $80. The Remy dessert experience is $70 instead of $65, and dinner is now an extra $10, bringing that high-end dining to the $145 mark. I remember when it was like less than half of that. Now, Enchanté on the Disney Treasure and Disney Wish also joined in on the price increases, so now the prefix menu for lunch and dinner has increased by an extra $10 as well, bringing that to $145 too. Okay, more often than not, you gotta pay for your boozy beverages out of pocket. But that doesn't mean you always have to pay full price for those drinks. When you're at one of the Disney Cruise Line bars, ask about the sommelier bin. The sommelier bin is designed for open bottles of wine. If a guest orders a particular type of wine that hasn't been opened yet, then the rest of that bottle will need to be used on the same day to guarantee its freshness. And that means you can sometimes get a really pricey glass of wine for a base price if you order whatever's in the sommelier bin during the time of your visit. Your mileage on this may vary because sometimes you'll just end up with a standard wine that you could have gotten literally anywhere else. But still, you get wine either way and for a potentially cheaper price. Again, not a guarantee, but never hurts to ask. Disney must-brings and Disney Cruise must-brings sometimes overlap. Sunscreen, swimsuits, comfy shoes. If you're taking a Disney vacation, bring them. Bring them always. But there are some things you'll want to pack in your Disney Cruise bags that you're not really going to need during a theme park vacation. So if you pack with the theme park mentality in mind, you might forget about these important ship essentials entirely. First is your pirate garb. Most every cruise has a pirate night with lots of specialty pirate events going on all day and all evening long. So if you want to be hip with the swashbuckling scene and not have to pay a peg leg and a hook hand for pirate gear at the gift shop, get it? Pack your bandanas, your eye patches, your fake temporary tattoos in your bag ahead of time. There really aren't any specific rules for what sunscreen you are and aren't allowed to wear, but Disney would prefer that you picked a reef-safe specific one just to be mindful of all their little sea critter friends. A few solid reef-safe specific brands that we've found work real nicely include All Good, Sea Summit, and Thrive Natural Care. And you may not be able to use over-the-door hooks on your Disney cruise, but you can use the magnetized ones. These are essential for me. The walls of your DCL cabin are mostly magnetized, so magnetized hooks are super useful when it comes to storage. Use them for your lanyards and your towels and your tote bags and your wet bathing suits and your bathrobe and anything. You can get a pack of 20 hooks off Amazon for around $10. Another thing you won't want to forget to pack before your cruise is maybe a fish extender. Yeah, some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Fish extenders are basically hanging gift bags that passengers can choose to purchase ahead of their trip and hang outside their cabin door as a sort of mailbox-like feature that other passengers can drop goodies into. This is a cruise tradition created by Disney Cruise Line fans and not by Disney itself, so it's not officially sanctioned, but they're perfectly fine with you doing it. They're called fish extenders, by the way, because on the original ships, the Magic and the Wonder, the little clip next to your door is a fish, and so you would hang these fish extenders on your fish. Make sense? Okay, but clear as mud. You'll also need to connect with other fellow passengers who are going to be aboard your same ship before your cruise, so you have people to actually exchange goodies with. This is a really fun time to not only do something really unique during your vacation that your kids will be thrilled with, but to also connect with fellow Disney folks who share the same excitement about the same stuff you do. So now you've got a cruise and a lifelong bestie, or at least a very pleasant temporary bestie. Most folks find their fish extender friends through Disney Cruise Line forums online or mutual Disney Cruise Line Facebook group pages. Just make sure the site you're using to meet these cruise line companions is a reliable one. Always be careful, right? We're talking about meeting people online, and that can be weird. And don't give away any super personal information while you're trying to find your fish extender matchup. So there's another way you can get fish extenders for your cruise, and it's actually through Disney, but in a different way. So speaking of goodies in your room, if you want certain specialty goodies delivered to your stateroom before your ship starts sailing, just as fun little extra surprises for your kids, or maybe like a case of water or something like that, go to the Onboard Gifts and Amenities page via the Disney Cruise Line website to purchase from a selection of in-room surprises, decor options, and supplies. If you're not cruising yourself, but you still want to send someone a surprise for their big celebration cruise, like for a honeymoon or birthday or whatever, you can do that too. All you need is the reservation number or the first and last name of the person who booked the reservation, plus their cruise's sail dates. I've actually sent some champagne to a friend of mine who is sailing, and that was really, really fun. I'm glad that I figured out how to do that, and so can you. Okay, you made it to port. Now what? There are so many different ports Disney might take you to, like the Bahamas, which is kind of their main one, or the Caribbean and Mexico, both silver medalists when it comes to port of call frequency. Less commonly, Disney also has their Alaska and Pacific Northwest cruises. Rarer still are the Europe and Mediterranean and Northern European destinations. You might find a Hawaii-based cruise every now and again. You get the idea though. There's lots of destinations. And while just being in these new locations is cool enough as it is, you might start to feel overwhelmed by all the newness if you don't have some sort of itinerary lined up for your group. So get to searching. Find out what the local dining spots offer, or see which shopping strips are going to have the most unique souvenirs, or take a little journey to the nearest beachside or historical monument, maybe even water park, which is a big deal if you're in Nassau, since that's where you're going to find Atlantis Paradise Island. And while you're more than welcome to explore any port the way you want to, Disney also offers a ton of port adventures by destination to help you build your day if you'd like the extra guidance. Next thing I want to talk about with ports of call is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. Many of the ports that you're going to visit during your cruise are set up with big tourist traps that you're going to have to cross through right when you step off the ship. Don't let the tourist traps suck you in for the majority of your port day though. These areas might be fun and exciting at first because again, it's all brand new, but I promise you once you get deeper into these cities and ports, you'll get out of all the back-to-back shops with overpriced trinkets and doodads, and you'll find more authentic stuff in restaurants and museums, and most importantly, the culture of that city. The last time I took a Disney cruise, I was on a Disney cruise that stopped in Grand Cayman, and that is unfortunately a port city that has a lot of tourist trappy stuff right when you get off the ship, and it's very easy to get stuck in all of that. But I walked over to a local museum and learned so much about the island. Just walking a few blocks from the port in Skagway in Alaska revealed an exquisite collection of streets that had a ton of unique and delicious bakeries and ice cream stops and even breweries. So please, I know the tourist traps can be colorful and appealing, but 9 times out of 10, it's the same stuff you're going to find in the next port, and there's so much more to discover beyond the tchotchkes and bartered price tags. Okay, while Disney offers to help you book excursions through their website, you are more than welcome to book experiences through a third-party site instead if you find that a third party is more affordable or is more curated to your specific interests. Just keep in mind that if a third-party excursion runs a bit longer than you expected, Disney's not going to hold the ship for you until you return. So just be sure to book any of those third-party excursions earlier on in the day rather than later, so you don't have to feel rushed and stressed getting back to the ship before it sets sail without you. It's also important to study up on third-party excursions instead of blindly trusting the first options that you see pop up online. Some third-party excursions are great. The DFB team has personally had a lot of good luck with a company called Tours by Locals. So if you're looking for a solid recommendation we've used on our own cruises, and even when we've been living and traveling in other cities several times before, this is one that I personally rely on quite a bit. Again, this is not an ad. I use Tours by Locals several times on my travels, but others may not give you the awesome experience you were promised. All in all, booking through Disney directly and paying a higher price for the experience will probably help you sleep better at night, especially if you're not necessarily well-versed in a particular port's culture or language. But if you want to try the third-party route, just don't leap before you look. Read reviews, call the company, get details, and understand the cancellation policies, and then get that overall confidence in that third party before locking anything in. Whatever you decide to plan for your port day, you can't just snap your fingers and magically get to those locations. So how are you going to get from point A to point B if teleportation hasn't been invented yet? Overseas ports will have cab services and their own rideshare apps probably that you might want to look into downloading for your trip. But before you just hop into the first taxi that comes your way, again, do your research and make sure the service you find is one you're super comfortable with using. Being on a Disney cruise can sort of lull you into a sense of safety, knowing that everything is already vetted and safe for you when you are on the ship. But as soon as you get out into a port, that all has to be double and triple checked by you before you take advantage of it. My best advice for you is to contact the Disney Cruise Line directly. It's 1-800-951-3532 and ask what they recommend you look into for a rideshare or taxi. Disney's help desk should be able to give you a few reliable rideshare sources for your ship's specific port of call. With that being said, if you book a port adventure through Disney, the excursion's cost will cover ground transportation to and from the ship, making things a whole lot less stressful for you. So, do your research. Still on the port adventures here because I think it's really important. Language barriers aren't always going to be something you have to worry about at your port of call, but they certainly can be, especially if you plan on traveling a good distance away from where your ship's docked, deeper into the heart of those overseas cities. That's why it's a good idea to memorize a few essential phrases in the city's native language before you head out, just in case. It also may be worth downloading a language learning app or a translator that'll help you learn a few other essential phrases before the start of your trip. Now, I mentioned a translator. That's super useful. Have one downloaded onto your phone ahead of time. Those apps may not work perfectly, but they'll at least be close enough to the language to help you through a transaction or ask for directions or something along those lines. Somewhere that I find those translator apps really useful is in places that use an alphabet or a writing system that I'm not used to. So Japan, China, Korea, these are all going to be places where the translator is going to be super useful, because just looking at those particular symbols doesn't mean that you have any clue what that could potentially be. Now, don't go out to port just because you think you have to. It is very cool to go see a city you've never had the chance to explore before. I love doing it, but on those port of call days, your ship might be docked at a certain location for 8 to 10 hours, and you just might not need or want to spend all that time wandering about the city if you feel like you already got the gist of it. There's no shame in heading back to your Disney ship hours before the ship heads back out to sea, or not even get off the ship when you're in port if it's not one that you necessarily want to spend time in. I do that all the time since I know this will be my prime opportunity to hit up the pools when they're way less busy, or get in line for the slides and water coasters when there's little to no wait. Now, super duper speedy tidbit for you that is very, very important and keeps biting me in the butt on a regular basis. Your ship's gift shops will not be open when you're docked in port. So if you decide to head back to your ship early on our port of call day, don't expect to do any shopping on board until you're back out at sea again. Usually a Disney cruise traverses pretty tame waters, but even Disney can't control what storms might pop up and quite literally rock the boat, which is why it's a good idea to have that non-drowsy Dramamine and/or motion sickness patch on hand. Now, let's say you start off your cruise on nice calm waters, but in the middle of it a storm sweeps in and you find yourself rummaging through your bag to find those motion sickness aids stat. Here's the problem, potentially. These medicines can take hours to adjust to your inner ear, as well as the unpredictable movements that trigger motion sickness. So if you take them right when your ship starts moving, or right when the queasiness starts to set in, it might be too late. So my advice for you is to check the forecast and take the seasickness meds starting a night or two before the storms start up, just so your body can get adjusted to the effects. It's also a good idea to choose a midship stateroom when you're booking your cruise instead of towards forward or aft, since midship rooms don't feel as much rocking and wave rolling, quite like the rooms that are situated at the ends of the ship. Again, as much as Disney would love to control the weather for you, they cannot. So here's what you can expect when your Disney cruise ship runs into more than just a little rainstorm or sprinkling here and there. Depending on the forecast, Disney will send out emails with more information to travel agents and cruisers alike to keep everyone updated on the storm situations at hand, including potential big changes in your cruise's itinerary. Your ship might even skip stopping at a port entirely and instead spend another full day out at sea. And I know that's disappointing, but it's much better to keep everyone safe during these iffy and stormy times than to stay on course during a precarious situation, right? Plus, Disney will refund you when a Disney port excursion has to be canceled due to lightning or high winds or torrential downpours. In the rare occurrence that Disney actually does have to cancel your whole cruise, they will issue a refund. Occasionally, they might even offer you a discount on a future cruise. But if you're booking through a third party, make sure you do your research on their cancellation policies too. Not every destination follows the same winter, spring, summer, fall lineup that the states do. So if you're traveling somewhere in the southern hemisphere, their summer months actually land during January and February. So don't plan a February cruise thinking you're going to get nice mild temperatures, only to be in a country where temps are sky high and your suitcase is so not packed and ready for that. Even without a storm on the horizon, your stomach and head may simply disagree with the cruising life. But it's hard to know how exactly your body's going to respond to your newfound sea legs until you're sailing out on the 7 seas for the first time. So, while it might be tempting to go big or go home for your first ever cruise, it might instead be better for those who are more prone to motion sickness to test the waters, literally, by booking a shorter cruise first, like a 3-day sailing versus a 7+ day one, where you'll have more days out at sea and therefore more days where your body might be screaming, enough already. Packing for a cruise is a lot like packing for a flight. You're allowed a personal item like a purse, a fanny pack, a backpack, a carry-on, and 2 pieces of checked luggage per person. You'll receive luggage tags for the 2 pieces of checked luggage prior to your cruise. Now, because your luggage won't be delivered up to your stateroom until 1:30 p.m. or later, it's important to pack necessities that you need to keep with you, like any important medications, electronic devices, even a swimming suit for the pool when you first get on the ship, inside your personal item or carry-on. That way you won't be panicked if you don't end up seeing said important items for the next few hours. This is probably shocking to nobody, but Disney Cruise Line room service is my weakness. Like, yes, hello, I would love to order breakfast to my room and enjoy it out on my veranda, thank you very much. Disney Cruise Line's free room service is available 24 hours a day, y'all, meaning you can have breakfast, lunch, and late night Mickey bars sent up to your stateroom whenever you like. Just pick up the phone inside your stateroom and dial the room service button. It's that easy. And yes, those Mickey Premium bars are indeed available even though they are not on the room service menu. You are welcome. Now, one of the only things that room service will charge you for are those canned and bottled sodas and waters and any alcohol. Again, sodas and water are free if you use the fountains near the pool deck, just saying. All room service offerings are listed on the Navigator app so you can figure out what you want to order before you call. Room service is available until 1:30 a.m. on the final day of your cruise, but you can't use it in the morning when you're getting off the ship. There are a few key reasons why you're not going to want to pass up open house. Reason number 1, this is the only way that grown-ups will be able to see the Oceaneer Club for ages 3 to 10, Edge for ages 11 to 14, and Vibe for ages 14 to 17 in person, since these are no parents' zones otherwise. Reason number 2, it helps to get your kid or tween or teen acclimated to the club while you're still with them instead of just dropping them off later on in some overstimulating space with a bunch of strangers. And reason number 3, this is the time to get your Oceaneer Club kiddos registered. Kids still need to be registered for the Oceaneer Club in order to use it, and while you can register for the Oceaneer Club online ahead of time, which is probably more ideal, because then you don't have to wait in any sort of registration line, open house can still be the prime time to get you and your kids set up for Kids Club success. Usually you'll find open houses listed on your Navigator app during embarkation day, but open houses can also happen at other times throughout your cruise too. Just check the app's updated schedule for a list of times so you don't miss out. Now, in order to go to the kids clubs, your kid is going to have a Magic Band Plus or a DisneyBand Plus. So you will need to swing by the club to get them one if they don't already have one. Now, when you pick up these Oceaneer bands, there will be a $12.95 charge on your stateroom tab for them. But this is just a deposit, which you'll get back when you return the bands at the end of your cruise. If you forget to return the bands or if you decide to keep one of them as a memento, that deposit will become a full-on charge to your account. So don't forget to return the bands if you want that $12.95 back in your pocket. If you stick with just bringing a carry-on bag with you on board, which you can totally do, and I actually prefer doing it that way, then you don't really need to worry about this mistake. But if you do bring a checked bag and you want it transported to the terminal on your disembarkation day for you, then you need to make sure you set it outside your stateroom on the last night of your cruise so it can be picked up between 8 and 10 p.m. If you don't, you're going to be toting that bag all morning long on disembarkation day, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I do it all the time, but it is something you'll have to juggle as you're making your final rounds and eating your breakfast on board. And another thing I do all the time is this next point. There are 2 types of folks at the end of a Disney cruise. The first type wants to stay as long as possible on board before they have to get off, meaning squeezing in one last all-inclusive breakfast before stepping onto dry land again. And the second type wants to get off the ship ASAP because they got a flight to catch or more vacation activities ahead of them that they're ready to get on with immediately. I'm usually the second kind. If the latter option's going to end up being the case for you too, then you'll need to know about Disney Cruise Line's Express Walk-Off. Express Walk-Off gives guests the chance to jump ship, not in the walk the plank sort of way, but the less dangerous way, as early as 7 a.m., as soon as the ship clears customs. You'll just have to make sure your stuff is packed and ready to take off the ship with you, since you won't have luggage assistance from the crew during the Express Walk-Off option like you would during the regular debarkation process. You also won't be able to get one last breakfast, which might be a deal breaker for you if you're a big breakfast fiend like Bria. Each rotational restaurant on the ship has a 3-course option where you can order an appetizer, an entree, and dessert. But of course, you don't have to order that way at all. You can order whatever you want on a Disney cruise. 2 apps, 3 desserts, whatever. Now, some entrees are going to be your safe options, while others might be a little more out of the box for you adventurous diners out there. Now, even if you usually don't branch out from your typical diet of chicken and burgers, Disney does give you the chance to step out of the box a bit and try something more adventurous, because it's all included. So even if you don't end up liking the escargot you wanted to try as an appetizer, you can pass it on to someone else in your group who will help you finish it, and then you can ask your server the next time they come around for a different appetizer you might like better. Again, this won't cost you anything extra, except perhaps extra time waiting for a new app to come out to your table. So it's a good opportunity for pickier eaters or kids to take the chance and see if they can find a new favorite food that maybe you would never have paid to try otherwise. Now, I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Disney Cruise Line elevators get crowded and stressful, especially during peak times like before the stage shows and dinner and right after the fireworks. But the elevators on the Disney Wish and Disney Treasure can be a special sort of confusing. On the Wish and Treasure, all elevators go up to deck 11, that's the main pool deck, but only some of the elevators go to decks 12, 13, and 14. So you'll need to check which elevator bank you press if you want to reach one of those upper decks. Otherwise, if you pick an elevator that stops at 11, you'll have to get off at 11 and walk up the stairs to whatever higher floor you were wanting to reach, or you'll have to go back down the elevator and transfer over to the one that does go to the higher floors, which is a headache and a half, and I'm forever getting lost if I'm ever trying to find Palo on the Wish. Just forget it, I will be lost forever. Free Disney Cruise Line tours. You do not want to miss out on that. According to the Disney website, there are usually 2 tours available on board each Disney ship. The first is a general walking tour available to all ages, and the other one is for those 18 years and older called Art of the Theme Show. The second tour is going to give you a much closer look at the details and designs of the ship you're about to cruise on through the eyes of an Imagineer. Again, both of these tours are free and don't require you to make any advance reservations for them ahead of time, but they're usually only available on day 1. So check your Navigator app as soon as you can to see your cruise's schedule to figure out where these tours start. You can also ask a crew member to point you in the right direction too. On the Disney Wish, Disney Treasure, and Disney Destiny, you're going to be able to ride the AquaMouse water coaster, but not just one version, multiple versions. Each day, you'll see a poster outside of the AquaMouse letting you know which storyline is currently playing out in the little tunnel section that happens during the uphill climb. On the Disney Wish, it'll either be a Scuba Scramble or Swiss Meltdown. On the Treasure, you'll have the same 2 options, plus the additional Curse of the Golden Egg storyline. And on the Destiny, you've got another potential storyline to check out called Sing a Silly Song, where you'll encounter some classic Disney villains along the way. So don't just deem the AquaMouse as a one-and-done attraction. Go back and see what storyline is currently happening each day so you can try to knock them all out before the end of your cruise. No one wants to think about their cruise potentially getting canceled, but life happens, and when life interrupts your vacation plans, you're going to want to make sure you know how to pivot accordingly. For the most part, cruise cancellations, or shifting your vacation timeline, or even adding or taking away guests from your stateroom should be fairly painless if you get it done 90 days before your 1 to 5 night sailing, or 120 days before your 6+ night sailing. These are also the same deadlines for getting 100% refund, deposit included, for a canceled trip. Otherwise, you're bound to run into a cancellation fee. Or if you're canceling within 14 days or fewer of your cruise's sail away date, you'll forfeit the cost of your cruise entirely. With all that being said, canceling or changing your concierge stateroom reservations is a whole different ball of wax. For instance, once you put down a deposit for a concierge stateroom, you do not get that deposit back for a cancellation, even if you end up canceling well before the 90 to 120 day marker. If you want a full refund for your concierge stateroom, not including that initial deposit, which will just be gonzo if you have to cancel for whatever reason, you have to cancel before you're 29 days out from embarkation day. Otherwise, you'll forfeit the full cost of your cruise. And if you need to adjust your sail dates for whatever reason, concierge isn't nearly as easy to work around versus the other stateroom choices. More than likely, you're going to have to call up Disney Cruise Line directly and ask if certain changes can be made versus making any of those easy adjustments online. So, just to sum it up, research the different cancellation policies and nuances before you book, and maybe consider if travel insurance is something you want to tack onto your trip for some extra peace of mind. Okay, this is something I learned during my last Disney cruise just a few weeks ago. If you make reservations for the premium adults-only Palo Steakhouse on board the Wish or the Treasure, try to request a booth or a window side table when you check in. The booths right by the window are the best seats by far, but there's always the possibility that you're going to get seated at a teeny tiny 2-top table in the middle aisle. The food is still going to be great no matter where you're seated, but the 2-tops feel more like diner seating versus fancy date night seating. Much less comfortable, and there's people kind of around you all the time. Much like Disney park restaurants, table requests can't always be accommodated, but it's always worth asking about. You're paying the same amount of money as everybody else. See if you can get a fabulous table. But be cool about it. Don't get weird. If they seat you someplace you don't like, just go with it. You already made your request. They did what they could do. So I've always been a fan of Disney cruises, you know that, but they've really been winning me over lately, which is why I'm so excited to talk even more about DCL life with you if you're ready to keep on exploring. So go ahead and check out one of our other recent Disney Cruise Line videos, like new rules for Disney Cruise Line or what it's really like to cruise with Disney. And don't forget to pick up our free Disney Cruise Line Ultimate Guide today over at disneyfoodblog.com/cruise planning. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.